Welcome to the Partners Podcast, where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to entrepreneurs who are relentlessly building real, profitable companies. Join us as we ask them the hard questions so you can take away the mindset, strategy, and tactics that launch them to success. Welcome to the Partners Podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, a diamond partner as well, Arthur. He is crushing it, killing it. He has been able to scale his business to $500,000 a year. And Arthur, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? How did you come out, like just swinging?
I saw the pause where you cut out the word. Thanks, Brandon. So the business is called 360 Captures. I started it 3 years ago. I would say I got very lucky that I got into this business. I never had a plan of getting into marketing or real estate for that matter. I actually didn't know what aperture or ISO meant when I was doing my first shoot. So I would say COVID got us started. Luckily I bought a Matterport camera 4 months before COVID hit, and was already in the market of approaching people to use the service. And real estate, they couldn't show stuff, so that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and slowly but surely it grew. I also was lucky to recognize that video was a way of the future for agents and for real estate, and that's where we went heavy on. And I would say to anyone watching, especially if you're in the business, that I was never the mentality that we sell listing marketing. We sell agent marketing, and listings come along with it, because listings come and go. And if you invest in yourself and in your brand, that's what's really going to pay off. And that's, as a provider, as a service provider, I'm able to ask for higher fees because it's a lot more value than doing a video for a house. Whereas, like, I always tell my clients that a listing video, if you're not on the video, is disposable. Once the house sells, you can throw it out along with the money you spent on it. But if you're on the video, then you can circle it across your network or across your sphere and actually get some business and promote yourself, than just promoting four walls with a door.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great piece of advice that other agency owners that are working with agents should really internalize. Like, you're not selling the listing, you're selling the agents, you're selling what they can do for the listing, and focusing on the benefits long term, as opposed to having it be something that feels transactional in every direction, right? If it's just photos for the listing and it sells, that's it. You might have it for your portfolio on your Instagram, like down, like it's just gonna go down over time. It's just like, are you ever gonna use that asset again? Or are you gonna use it to showcase, hey, this is how we do it different. This is how you're gonna be able to win more listings. This is how you're gonna start building a brand where you can attract not just buyers and sellers, but other agents to join your team, right? Look at Ryan Serhant. His whole business is built video. And now he has a whole media company doing video for everyone on his team, and he's using that as a recruiting tool, right? So you get it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Ryan Serhant. He's actually I got his audiobook, Sell Like Serhant. I think I listened to it 7 times over. I read a dozen sales books in my life, and I think that's one of the ones where it's actually practical. But the reason I say that it's funny that you brought up Serhant is because I don't go on a lot of podcasts, but I actually hosted my own podcast once, and I invited this guy who's in roofing, pretty big in roofing, and he was like, "What is your vision for the company?" And I was in my year 1, so I gave him the answer that was in my head. I was like, "I think I want to start a real estate brokerage." He's like, "What?" And I was never about the real estate brokerage to do the deals and the transactions and do the paperwork, but it's to actually, I was like, oh, what if I had a brokerage that did offer this top of the line marketing to agents, unlike the other shops in town? Would that attract top producers? So, and that's essentially what Ryan Serhant did. Is the reason people came to his brokerage is for his entire state of the art marketing team that can do anything. And it's kind of where I'm taking my company, just minus all of the brokerage stuff. It's to kind of the way I see it is down the line, we're only working with agents as partners to do their marketing very intentionally and not to be like you wouldn't be able to call us up for a listing shoot unless you're already working with us as a partner.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a long-term vision. I'm not there yet. I also realized if I start a brokerage, I'm starting to compete with my own clients, and that's not a
Yeah.
good way to shoot yourself in the foot. Um, but yeah, it's essentially it's so competitive that when it comes to real estate agent to real estate agent, that I think now it's to a point where you can't do a video here, a video there, and just treat it from the standpoint of like, well, I did something, then I must be doing it right. It kind of has to be like you start with
Yeah.
a plan, you figure out why you're doing it, what we should do, where you spend the money, where you don't spend the money, and that's sort of the philosophy that I'm trying to transition into with clients.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. And, we should talk a little bit about your success because I think you approach some of your top clients, right, with that exact mentality. And what were you able to create in it's been like just a month since those conversations started, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's fairly new. I'm actually keeping it on the down low when it comes to I'm not talking about it publicly. I only talked about it with my key clients. Part of the reason for that is I don't want to spread myself too thin. I mean, we have a great team, and I think if I lowered our entry price point, I could get not 3 clients but 15 clients. But I would rather work on really build up 3 agents in my market and use them as case studies and actually develop the process, develop the system rather than doing a little bit for everybody. Um, so as far as what happened, the agreements are in place. So like the next phase would be for us to go into a long kind of a discovery phase of like what the plan is and what we're gonna do. So we actually haven't created any content, and we won't create any content until we know why like what the content is, what it's for. Like we have a really great art director on the team who's gonna work with the clients and sort of creating if it's a photo shoot, then what is the style, what is the theme of that photo shoot, what clothing are we wearing, how do
Yeah.
we brief the photographer. So it's a lot more intentional than just let's show up and take photos in front of this random
Yeah.
bush because it looks good. It has to
Can
all
I
work.
can I ask you
Yeah.
what value are they going to get from you? Like what is the transformation that they're going to get? Because to my knowledge, they're annual commitments, more or less, right? And like how do you see them evolving into a case study? And what does that case study look like where they invested $1 with Arthur and 360 captures, and what did they get out long term? Like how did you paint that picture?
Yeah, well, it's everything is dollar against dollar. Like I've never been a fan of growth when it comes to like following count or the number of likes you get or impressions. I think if you set that goal, you can work around that and you can work towards that goal, and that might not reflect in the business. Like there is ways to grow following, or sometimes people buy following, right? Just to get the number, but it doesn't mean anything. So it's we look at what you do as in your business today, and we're going to look at that 6 months from now or 12 months from now, and evaluate. So if you're able to produce more, but not only are you producing more, but your time is freeing up from having to think about this. But the biggest value, the way I sell it is, or not sell it, it's really explain it, is that you are getting access to a big team of creatives who are professionals in their own field. Instead of trying to do it yourself, we're creating a process around you, making sure that we stay on track and keeping you. It's not about accountability, it's helping you actually get this stuff done. Um, so that if we do this, and it's not like selling advertising where you stop the budget, you stop the ad spend, it goes away. It's all about branding and marketing. So 12 months from now we do this where we put out consistent content for 52 weeks in a row, Even if we go in our separate ways and we don't continue working together, that stuff is never going away. So they go on your feed, they go on your page, they're going to be met with the most amazing curb appeal. And you might not even have to do anything. It's going to continue generating business and kind of having. I don't think you're going to want us to leave, but um, so it's the really the long game. It's not about like the first year if they get the money back, I'm happy. I'm really like asking them what's their vision 5 years from now.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome how you've positioned that, as a long-term investment, as an investment that's not going to go away. Like it's literally like I keep phrasing it as digital real estate. Like everything's online. People are going to Google you. People are going to look up your Instagram, maybe YouTube, potentially if you are putting out long form video, maybe even on the short form, shorts. When people look you up, what are they going to see? Are they going to see something that's going to help you convert them into a client and build trust, build that like, know, and trust? Or is it something that, they look you up and they're like, yeah, I'd rather go with Arthur's partner. Like they kind of know what they're doing a lot more than, this one person who doesn't put out anything. So if you're a real estate agent and you're not investing in content, like, there's those agents out there. Like, what is your interaction with those types of agents? Do you try to convince them?
No, I don't convince. If I that's the thing. So I don't know who said it. I was listening to somebody's podcast actually. I remember who said it was about animation projects, but essentially, if it's hard at the beginning where you're like talking about the project and you got to like pull strings and you're convincing them and they don't quite get it, even if you convince them, I believe it's going to be like that throughout the entire project. So I would rather, because it's here's the thing, them committing to this is also me committing to this, right? And I'm coming to my best clients with this. So I want to make sure it's going to be a good relationship where I don't put them in a position where they don't quite get it, they don't quite see the value, and now I'm having to convince them that this is working. I would rather keep the relationship the way it is if they're a little more comfortable with that and just move on to somebody who gets it. Um, there is, and this is also for anyone who's watching this or listening. If you're not in a market like LA or Miami or like we're in Pittsburgh, and the way I position it is, guys, like we're not looking at local competition because I'm not trying to be a dick, but there's nothing to find here. If even the best agents in Pittsburgh tried to compete in Miami and LA, they would have they couldn't compete. It's not the level. So what I'm saying is like, look, we're gonna try to make it so you could compete in those markets, but you're here, and that's like such an easy way to not an easy way to stand out, but it's such an obvious way to stand out is not to measure yourself to the locals. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I love what you said about like not investing more when it's an uphill battle. Like why do that to yourself when there are many clients that would love the opportunity to work with you? Why are you trying to force a relationship? And that's the mindset shift that I've personally taken with business in the last year. I think I was watching a Grant Cardone video, and he was like debating the guy Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. It's a pretty funny video. Like they're at it against each other, like trying to out alpha each other.
Yeah.
And Grant Cardone, like Jordan Belfort kept coming at Grant Cardone saying, "Hey, what's your strategy here? What's your tactics?" And Grant Cardone's like, "I don't have any tactics. I don't have a strategy. This is what I have, and if you want it, you want it. If not, you don't want it. This is it. That's my strategy. Like I have a product. You want it? Okay, no, next, right?" And I love that approach because it's no longer putting it on, like a it's a what do we call it? It's no longer putting it on an interaction. like, did the interaction go well that led you to this, and that's all that mattered? Like, you're just selling your way into an opportunity. It's they're actually investing into a product. It's
Yeah.
not you selling them something they don't want. They're investing in something they've been actively looking for. And those types of relationships and deals are just 10 times better than the ones where you said, if you force it, dude, like you're gonna be chasing them for like, hey, it's content day, it's time to shoot, and they're like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, they're not prioritizing it because they never valued it in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can never rely on a contract. You never want to rely on a contract, right? Just because they're committed on paper, they can always quit, and you're not gonna force it down their throat. I mean, I feel like a contract is more to protect the both ways in terms of the expectations. Like, this is what we said we're gonna deliver on, but this is what we expect from you in terms of showing up. If you don't show up, it's not our fault that we didn't deliver, and that's the end of it. It's like, so that when because the retainers, you got to be very careful with retainers, right? In terms of like, scope creep can happen, and you can get very excited with the client and start doing more work than you planned for.
Yeah.
But you got to, unless it's delineated in the contract in some form, there might be a challenge on, like, what's in the scope, what's not in the scope. Sometimes it makes sense to over deliver. Sometimes you're just kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see this industry going? Like, is there something to be looking out for other agency owners or for real estate agents? Like, what is something that you've noticed outside of focusing and investing on brand and doing great marketing and having those great relationships? Where do you see this all going, and how are you staying ahead of the curve there?
It's a great question. Sometimes you get caught in the weeds of doing your own thing, then it's like, oh, where it's going, I don't know where it's going. It's got to make sure I'm going the right place. Um, but I would say, let me think on this. I know this has just been on my mind lately, and I know we actually plan to talk, I think, tomorrow about this as far as scripting and copy. Um, I'm actually turning to AI more to write these prompts and these hooks and the scripts. I'm not going to speak too much on it because I'm still testing and playing with it. But that's something that I think, like, as far as listing descriptions, like, there's things that I've seen people do these videos where they're looking off screen and the AI makes it look like you're looking in the camera.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's an NVIDIA product. That thing's awesome. My friend just got into the beta, and I'm just like, bro, I'll license access to that. Like
yeah,
that would make it like now I can sell to twice as many agents because half the agents like I'm not good on camera. I was like, okay, just literally read the script now.
yeah, yeah. Um, so that'll be interesting. I mean, I think that's touching every possible industry, so it's hard to not talk about that. Um, but I heard somebody say that, in a couple of years, AI might take over 90% of content on the internet, and I believe it. The way it's growing, it's been 3 months. Like, if you notice I mean, the exponential growth there is a little scary, but we'll see. As
Yeah,
far as agents, I mean, I'm hearing things like I'm seeing less and less of individual agents who are not having team members, even if it's one or two, which I get as far as like just being buyer agents and assistants. Um, but where it's all going, I think it's almost impossible now to not invest in video unless you're really, really good at networking. Like, I met a guy who's 23 years old and 3 years built a brokerage with 97 agents, and he's not on video ever. None of his agents are on video. I mean, he was able to be successful. I mean, his brokerage has 100% commission splits, so that helped, and he just networked through Facebook and events. And so I don't have a clear answer. I guess I don't know where it's going. Um, but for the majority of people, being on video is definitely the trend still, I think.
absolutely. So, what do you want to talk about? I want to keep this a little bit open ended for us. I know you're someone who is very inquisitive. You're an entrepreneur. You're always asking questions. You're always looking at different ways to do things, even with the AI. Like that's, I know that a lot of people are doing it, but it's just like you'll be surprised. Only, 10-20% of companies are actually jumping into it and like leaning in and actually doing stuff with it. I
Yeah.
wrote like I've used it to write copy. I've even used it to write a letter of recommendation for one of my colleagues, and it's an amazing tool. And when I wrote that letter of recommendation, she responded. She was like, "It looks so good. Thank you so much." I'm like, "Yeah, I just literally wrote 2 sentences and went from there."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
What do we want to talk about? Well, something that's on my mind again, building off of scripts and copy. I know you guys have experience with helping agents with content and talking head content. I was just at an event last night with ad agencies in town, and there was a production company that also worked outside of real estate, but they helped produce these vertical short form content. And they said they never work off of scripts and they let just people kind of roll with it.
yeah,
I haven't had a ton of experience. So, meaning I haven't had a ton of successful experience with that because, you know, you have to be very engaging. You have to be quick with the delivery. And how do you balance that? And also not sound too scripted, but also
mm,
let them speak their truth and not read off of a sheet of paper.
yeah,
So I know I'm going to be getting into this with my clients of helping them produce this. So that's what's on my mind. So I kind of want to see what your experience has been in
yeah.
that.
So I'm not a full-time director, and I think this is a great question for someone who is a full-time director and producer. I have been involved in many productions where I am an acting director and I am the one interviewing.
Mhm.
And I would say there's two pieces of advice for that. One is, like you said earlier, don't try to like have an uphill battle. If someone's just not good at being on camera and just speaking eloquently, random like off the cuff,
Yeah.
why are you trying to force that? Like it's literally trying to make ice cream out of flour. You're just not gonna make. It's not gonna happen, right? And so I would say with the people that are a little bit more coachable, that have a decent camera presence, it's about a hybrid model. And the hybrid model that's worked for me is giving them help along the way as a director, like feeding them, like asking them a question, saying, tell me like the one thing that everyone should be looking out for in this market. And if they don't have a good answer, then feeding them like a script, or not the full script, but the hook. Here's the hook. Finish this. If they can't finish that, maybe bring in a little bit more elements like, hey, what about this concept? What about this concept? Can you talk about it? And if they still
Yeah.
can't do it and you kind of understand that they're just not quite there yet, be like, hey, we're trying. And if you want to do it like this, it's just a little bit more involved. So we do have to budget for a full day production. If each one of these interviews for short form content is going to take 30 minutes, an hour per video, versus like, hey, if you just read the script, we can knock out 10 in an hour.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Right.
and it's all about setting those expectations. At the end of the day, like I think a lot of people expect overnight success. If they have no experience investing in video marketing, they think $1,000 is a lot of money, when in fact it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. Like video, if you invest 50K into video marketing in a year, and that helped you land 2 more listings because you went all out, and on top of that, you have those branding and marketing assets for life. That's like a 10x ROI. You got your money back in the first year, and then it's just gains from there. So why wouldn't you invest 50K? And a lot of agents, like, they're not thinking about it like an investor. They're thinking about it as a cost. And those are the agents that I would recommend everyone avoid. If they say how much does it cost, if they can't see it as an investment and they're not like at least supporting the conversation in a way, they're like, oh, I know I need this. I want to invest in it. I'm committed to it. Then you need to absolutely stay as far away as possible from those agents when you have other agents you can be serving better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, yeah, this one client I have, they're extremely, I would call it extremely creative on Instagram. They're like willing to be goofy. They're coming up with these skits. But they came to me saying like, we're doing this, but it's like not very intentional. We're just making fun TikToks, and they're actually funny and I would say pretty good. And they're turning to me now to kind of make it more professional. But I understand that I can't just turn them into this boring talking head person. I kind of have to find a way to maybe produce those skits as well, just make them more time back into real estate, increase the production quality. So yeah, to it's definitely an individual approach to everybody. And um, you and I were on the call the other day, where I think there was another guy who kind of had a lot of success with these social media management retainers. I think their standard package is $1,500 a month, and that's what they do, and they can't hire social media people fast enough. I only see that working if you produce like a very systematized approach where you just put people in the pipeline and you do the same for everybody. If it involves any outside and creative thinking, $1,500 a month is nothing for everything you need to do. So I kind of set it where like an agent that can work with us has to be selling 20 million or more. That's only when it starts making sense to invest, say, 60 grand a year to do this. And then I can actually put the effort and creative into it. Otherwise, maybe down the line when we build out the process to serve these bigger retainers, we can add on smaller. But this is so this is actually an interesting transition for me too, is because I would love to come up with a $500 retainer or $1,000 retainer, which is easy to implement. They get the value for that smaller investment. But what you get with that is you get all of their listings, right? Because it doesn't make sense for them to go to another photographer, because then they have to deliver you the media. So you plug it into their social and the templates. If you're doing it, you might as well do their listings.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of another way for, I think, this year that I plan to kind of raise our listing count is through these retainers.
Yeah, that's something we're looking into as well throughout all the agencies I work with. So it's cool that you're looking at it as well. We're looking to lean into each other on some of those resources, like working with a social media management white label offering potentially that we can build upon. And like Arthur, you could build it yourself, right? But why not build it with us and like get it as close to cost as possible, because you're not only are you coaching and managing potentially the opportunity, other agency owners are building that as well with you. And instead of getting one brilliant mind, you have 10 brilliant minds building it together. And obviously there needs to be one or two main owners and stakeholders, which is why I'm working hand in hand with those agency owners to develop it further. But in terms of like providing continued feedback and having it be a full ecosystem, when you can something you can offer as to an agent, just like Apple, right? Not only are you selling them listing solutions, you're selling them social media, which is the MacBook, and you're selling them Reels, which is the AirPods. You're selling them into the whole ecosystem and saying, hey, now we can handle your whole brand and marketing strategy, and you're no longer treated like a vendor. You're treated like a real partner. It's just like they wouldn't think about not having you on their team because they wouldn't know what to do without you.
Yeah. No, I am interested to talk about kind of the quote unquote white label. I think it makes sense if it's very streamlined and it's a simple offering without too much variation client to client. Because the way I'm approaching my clients is like, look, we're going to spend a month just thinking about this. You're going to pay us to think through the entire project of everything we should do. Like, I can't do that if you're only paying me $1,000 a month, right? It just won't make sense.
Here's where it gets juicy. This is the vision of ACRE Partner, right? When we can get 1,000 agency owners that are following a similar strategy, have a similar value and value system and mindset, you're doing that for one of your clients. You're going to do it for two more. There are probably in the world in business, I believe, like at most 20 archetypes of clients and profiles and personalities that you can really market. If we can have a strategy for each one of those archetypes of how invested they are, how accountable they are to their goals, how much they show up on the client side of, like how to work with them, and on the creative side, what type of content do they enjoy producing? What type of content are they excited about investing in? Where do they see the value? Is it on the practical side of the business where they're very numbers oriented, or is it all about feeling good and having fun, and they're working with you because it makes their life more enjoyable? When you can, and I don't think we should start off with 20, but if we can come up with 5 strategies that agents can buy into, now you can sell that strategy and rinse and repeat and
Yeah.
do that throughout the nation. And that's what excites me about working with you and collaborating with you, is like you're on that forefront of creating some strategies that you can actually plug and play with other agency owners into their business. Like Arthur, right now you have an amazing business in Pennsylvania, right? Um, you want to create true leverage in your upside. If you can come up with the best strategy, the best way to close agents on $50,000 monthly retainers, now if you can sell that strategy and take a percentage of that based off the value that you're providing in the sales process, in the value ladder, you can do that at scale with a dozen, 2 dozen, 5 dozen agencies, and you can potentially even like we would literally contract you as a business partner, not just contract, but partner with you, and you can keep 50% or 70% of anything you produce with all of Aerial Canvas's client base. That's
So are
leverage.
you saying that, like, essentially as a sales rep for the different strategies to the different clients? How is I guess I didn't quite follow. I understand, and I get, and I like the idea for the different archetypes, right? If you do this long enough and you've seen enough clients how they built out, you can then, I mean, by that time, if your team has managed that, you have a great process in place. If you're able to repeat with 5 or 6 clients, you know, it's kind of like shooting a listing, right? Is you break it down into steps. Like when we shoot listings, I don't ever see photos from the time, I don't even know what houses we shoot.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the kind of the same way. And I get the idea. It's just, for me, it's like, it's almost, I mean, I can build those internally, and it's within my team who are producing the content for the agent.
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying is, like, you would have all the processes in house, and I just bring you the client, and then you kind of feed them the content.
No, you sell us the whole business model. Like if you have a better business model and I
Mm-hmm.
can make more money and be more hands off with the business model, as a business owner, I'd rather buy the business model and have you plug
Mm-hmm.
and play your systems and have you, like, I have 1,800 clients. I know at least 10% of them are doing over 20 million. That's 180. I have
Oh, I
180
see.
clients you can potentially offer your product to, and I can give you the reputation and the name to lean into and the relationship, and you can bring the strategy and you can bring the execution, or you can bring just a component. If you want to bring just the sales, what's that
I
worth
got
in the whole
it's
value
yeah,
ladder?
yeah. I flipped it around. So essentially, if I have a way to produce this content for agents, you can plug me into your clients, and then we just split whatever is left over. I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, long term, there's a ton of work to be done right before we get there, but
yeah,
there is definitely opportunity unless AI kills us.
yeah. And I think that's the only way to have a competitive edge over AI is, how do you work smarter? Like, how do you lean into opportunities that AI can't see yet, because you're literally you're gaining insights from working with the best in the industry, from the agents that you work with and the agency owners that you partner with.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound like your grandpa saying AI is going to kill us. It's going to be a tool. But no, I'm with you. I again, as much as I want to look into the future and I want to see the long term vision, I think it's there. It's I gotta kind of overcome it one step at a time, which is like
Mhm.
again this this year, aside from me getting my private pilot license, is to get these agents and build their
Yeah.
cases, uh, build the process, and then yeah,
And I think that's exactly what we need to do. Like, I think it's really nice to be visionary from time to time, and like take a step back and look at it from bird's eye view, from, out of the stratosphere, like in space. But for you to get results, you have to put in the work, you have to take the actions, and you have to build it brick by brick. Like, you're not going to get, like, if you can't over deliver for 3 agents and get them results, how are you going to do that for 5? How are you going to do that for 10? So you get it. You're like, hey, let me just do the work first, and then if I have a great case study, then we can talk about everything else.
yeah, yeah. Um, what I should ask you?
We
No,
got we got enough time for probably one more topic. I do have to
mhm,
hop off in
yeah,
just a little bit, and I think this was an amazing episode. We can always do another one, Arthur. Like, I
yeah.
would love to. I love speaking with you, and we'll go from there. Like, if you have one more topic, let's try to jump on it real quick.
Um, No, I mean that's been the biggest theme on my mind is again just how do we because I so here's the thing. I mean, I had a competitor in my town who when I was getting started, they were in the business already for 5 to 7 years, just kind of doing photography and asking them on advice to get started. And I remember I made a post about how to take better listing photos yourself, and the guy reached out to me saying I'm an idiot for sharing the secrets. I'm like, if they want to take their own photos, they can figure out how to take their own photos. Um, but yeah, he said this was like the most stupid thing he's ever seen, and now I don't consider them competition because all they do is $150 listing photos, and that's kind of the extent of their marketing, or maybe a flyer kit for $50.
Yeah.
So is
Any,
like
I'll let you finish your
I was
question.
just gonna say is like I think there is an opportunity to really position yourself as true real estate marketing and branding,
Yeah.
not what these real estate marketing companies call themselves doing, like listing
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah.
And if you're successful at that and you can apply some really strategic thinking to working
Yeah.
with these agents, it's especially in markets like us in Pittsburgh, it's really easy to stand out.
Yeah, I agree with you, Arthur, on that strategy, and just sharing more and giving more to agents, because it's actually a qualifier and disqualifier. Anyone who's going to shoot photos themselves, they'll appreciate you. They're gonna take it. They're gonna find it on YouTube. If you didn't give it to them, great, whatever. For the people that do want to work with you, it shows your credibility, it shows your expertises, and it makes you more like the person that they would want to work with, someone who's very giving with your information and knowledge. Anyone that's successful, that's top of the food chain, top of the pyramid in business, your Grant Cardones, your Gary Vaynerchuk's, your Ryan Serhants, your Elon Musk, they give it all away. They give away 80%, 90% of what they know. They might have certain things and processes that are very complicated that they handle on a back end as a service offering, as a business. But like, those patents, that technology at Tesla, a lot of that's open source, and why? Elon's realized that's the best way to build a brand and to build a a business that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. He uses it as the best marketing tool. He gets all the best engineers to work with him because he's just so free in the way he shares his knowledge. And I think that's, if we can approach real estate with marketing with that mindset, I think we're going to just end up attracting more clients, because anyone that has money that's doing 20, 30, 40 million dollars in production, they're not going to want to do it themselves. They're not. They're making $500 an hour. They're not going to want to do a job for 150 when they can pay someone 150. They're literally losing $350 an hour every time they do that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to do it in my company. I don't take listing photos.
Yeah. Anyways, Arthur, pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. I love what you had to share. If you've enjoyed this episode, you've enjoyed hearing about how 360 Captures has rocketed to $500,000 in revenue and is on track to double that potentially in the next year or two, stay tuned. Follow us at ACRE Partner. Tune in to the Partners Podcast. Loved having you, Arthur, today.